They told you to fear the dark. They told you it was where demons lived, where danger waited, where you would lose yourself and never return. They made you believe that anything powerful that didn't shine, anything that didn't fit their idea of light, must be evil. But what if I told you that you've been lied to? Not just by the media or religion, but by generations of people who were too afraid to face what's truly inside them. What if I told you that the dark isn't your enemy, it's your origin? That within the dark there are powers, your powers waiting to awaken, waiting to be remembered. You've been told to seek the light, to chase enlightenment, to climb toward the heavens. But no one told you that before the light there was always darkness. Before the first spark of creation there was the void. That void wasn't empty, it was pregnant with potential. And so are you. You weren't born to float above life, detached and sanitized. You were born to descend, to integrate, to remember your own complexity. And inside that complexity, hidden among the parts of you you've been taught to deny, are the very powers that could liberate you. Let's stop hiding the truth. You've been taught that anger is wrong, that desire is sinful, that chaos is dangerous, that the unknown must be avoided. But those are the very places where your real strength lies. You don't need another motivational quote. You need to look into the places within yourself that you've been avoiding your entire life. Not just to confront them, but to claim them. When I say dark powers, I don't mean evil. I don't mean something to invoke like a spell. I mean the forces within your soul that the world has not given you permission to explore. Your raw, emotional truth, your unfiltered instincts, your ability to see beyond illusion, your capacity to destroy what no longer serves you, not in violence, but with clarity. These are the powers they never wanted you to understand. Because if you did, you'd stop being controllable. You'd stop being afraid. Have you ever felt that deep pull inside you? That whisper that says there's more to you than what they see. That sense that you were meant for something deeper, something wilder, something real. That's the beginning of remembering. That's the voice of your shadow calling you home. Not to imprison you in darkness, but to teach you how to wield it. You see, the lie isn't just that darkness is bad. The lie is that you must choose between light and dark. You don't. You are both. You are the shameless contradiction of the cosmos. You are the fire and the ash. You are the silence and the scream. And the moment you stop trying to be only good, only positive, only pure, you begin to access your full spectrum. And that's where your dark powers begin to rise. The first truth you must face is this: your pain was never meant to
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
be hidden. It was meant to be transmuted. And to transmute it, you have to feel it. You have to stop numbing, stop pretending, stop performing. The world has profited off your disconnection. It has sold you comfort instead of truth. It wants you docile, distracted, digestible. But your soul, it's feral. It's hungry for something real. And the only way to feed it is to descend into the sacred dark. What would happen if you stopped fearing your rage and started listening to it? Not lashing out, but listening. What would it say? Maybe it would tell you where your boundaries were crossed. Maybe it would show you the places where you abandoned yourself just to be accepted. Your rage isn't a curse. It's a compass. It's the part of you that refuses to be silenced anymore. And what about your fear? They told you fear is weakness, but fear is instinct. Fear is ancient wisdom. It's not always saying run away. Sometimes it's saying wake up. Fear can be a doorway, but only if you stop running from it long enough to ask, what are you trying to protect me from? And what would happen if I walked toward you instead of away from you? These dark powers are not here to destroy your life. They're here to destroy your illusions. There's a difference, and that difference is everything. Because once the illusions fall, what's left is real power. The kind that doesn't need to dominate, it just is. The kind that doesn't need external validation, because it's rooted in something deeper than opinion. It's rooted in essence. But this path isn't easy. It will strip you. It will test you. You'll lose people. You'll lose identities. You'll lose the comfort of being liked. But what you gain, it's beyond words. You gain yourself, not the version of you that pleases everyone. The version of you that remembers who you were before the world told you who to be. And here's what no one will tell you. Once you start to awaken these dark powers, you'll begin to see through everything. You'll see through the masks, the roles, the spiritual bypassing, the fake positivity. You'll see people clinging to light because they're terrified of their own depth. And you'll want to shake them, but you won't. Because you'll realize the most powerful thing you can do is embody your truth. Not preach it, not force it, just be it. Because your energy, once aligned with your real essence, becomes a frequency that others can't ignore. So let me ask you something. Not to impress you, but to provoke your soul, what have you been taught to fear inside yourself? That might actually be the gateway to your freedom. And if you stopped fighting that part of you, if you turned toward it instead of away, what might it reveal? Because the truth is, you've never been broken. You've been fragmented. And the dark powers inside you aren't there to tear you apart, they're there to bring you back together. Not to who you were told to be, but to who you already are, beneath the noise, beneath the masks, beneath the fear. They lied to you about the dark, but now you know. And knowing is the first key. You didn't come into this world empty. You didn't arrive as a blank slate, waiting to be filled by society's rules and expectations. No, you came here armed. You were born with codes, instincts, ancient memory embedded in your soul. Powers that were yours before language, before culture, before fear. But from the moment you took your first breath, the world began its quiet work of suppression. Not because you were dangerous, but because your power was. And power that cannot be controlled is always feared. Let's tell the truth. They didn't just domesticate your behavior, they domesticated your energy. You were taught to doubt your intuition, to tone down your emotions, to question your desires, to silence your truth. You were taught that being too much, too intense, too sensitive, too wild was something to be ashamed of. So you learned to shrink, to hide, to package yourself into something more acceptable. But in doing so, you buried the very forces that once made you whole. And those forces didn't disappear. They went underground. They became shadow. They became symptoms. They became restlessness, addiction, anxiety, numbness. But they never stopped calling you. And now, maybe for the first time, you're starting to feel them again. That quiet knowing in your gut that can't be explained. The fire in your chest when something's not right. The energy that surges through you when you stop pretending. That's not dysfunction. That's remembrance. Your soul is trying to wake you up to what you've always had. One of the most forbidden powers you were born with is intuition. Not the pop culture version that tells you which crystal to buy. I'm talking about raw, primal knowing. The kind of knowing that transcends logic. The kind that makes your skin crawl before someone betrays you. The kind that whispers leave now when everything looks fine on the surface. You were born with that. But they taught you to ignore it, to override it with politeness, with reason, with self-doubt. They replaced instinct with obedience. But what if your intuition was never meant to be doubted? What if it was your first language and you've just forgotten how to speak it? Another power you were born with is emotional alchemy. You were never meant to suppress your emotions. You were meant to feel them fully and transmute them into wisdom. Your anger was meant to show you your limits. Your sadness was meant to bring you back to your heart. Your grief was meant to purify you. But instead you were taught that emotions are messy, inconvenient, irrational. so you stopped feeling. Or you felt too much and didn't know where to put it, so it turned inward, became illness, became bitterness, became shame. But your emotions were never the problem. The problem was not being shown how to honor them, how to use them, how to let them move through you like sacred messengers they are. And then there's your desire, perhaps the most demonized power of all. You were taught that desire is sinful, that wanting something deeply makes you selfish, ungrateful, unspiritual. But your desire is your soul's compass. It pulls you toward your purpose. It ignites your creative fire. It calls you to the life that is meant for you, not the one you were told to settle for. Think about it: who benefits from you distrusting your desire? Who gains when you suppress your hunger for more? The systems that rely on your silence, the people who fear your liberation. You were also born with the power of energy awareness, the ability to feel what others can't name, the ability to sense when something is off, even when no one else sees it. This is not paranoia. This is sensitivity as intelligence. But because we live in a world that values data over intuition, performance over presence, you were taught to numb out, to ignore what you feel, to stop trusting the invisible. And yet, your energy reads rooms before your mind catches up. It knows things before they're spoken. You are not crazy. You are wired for deep perception. And that's a gift the world desperately needs. And let's not forget your power of imagination. They made it sound like a child's game, but imagination is the blueprint of creation. Everything that exists began as a vision, a dream, a feeling. You were born with the power to see beyond what is, to feel what could be. But they taught you to stop dreaming, to be realistic, to stay in line. And in doing so, they clipped your wings. But your imagination is not a distraction. It's a portal. It's your direct access to timelines that haven't happened yet, but could if you remember how to see. So I ask you now, which of your powers were you taught to suppress and why? And more importantly, what would happen if you stopped hiding them? The moment you stop apologizing for your intensity. The moment you stop editing your truth to make others comfortable. The moment you stop betraying your body's signals just to be liked, that's the moment your forbidden powers start to awaken again. And when they do, you will feel it. Not as ego, but as integration. You will feel more you than you've ever felt before. Not perfect, not always happy, but whole. These powers aren't fantasies. They are your birthright, and reclaiming them doesn't require you to become someone else. It requires you to remember who you were before the forgetting began. This is not about becoming better. It's about becoming real, and realness is magnetic. Realness is medicine. Realness is revolutionary in a world addicted to the fake. So here's the truth. You don't need to find your power. You need to stop giving it away. Stop shrinking. Stop denying. Stop waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to be who you already are. This isn't a rehearsal. This is the moment, and it's been waiting for you all along. We've been told for centuries to be the light, to shine, to stay positive, to elevate above the pain, the mess, the uncomfortable truths. But what if I told you that the world doesn't need more light in the way we've been taught to understand it? What if the world is drowning in artificial light-forced smiles, spiritual bypassing, motivational noise, and what it's starving for is depth? What it's aching for is realness. And realness lies not in your polished light, but in your sacred darkness. Let's get honest. Light without darkness is shallow. It floats on the surface, avoids the shadow, and pretends that everything is fine. But you and I both know it's not. People are suffering. Not because they're bad or broken, but because they've been cut off from the parts of themselves they were told were unworthy. They've been taught to fear their own depth, and that's exactly why your darkness matters. Your darkness isn't a flaw. It's not a weakness. It's a medicine this world has forgotten how to receive. Your darkness is where your empathy lives. You don't learn compassion by bypassing pain, you learn it by sitting inside it, by letting it break you open, by feeling your own suffering so deeply that you begin to understand the suffering of others without needing to judge or fix them. That kind of empathy doesn't come from positivity. It comes from presence, from allowing yourself to be cracked open, to be human, to feel it all. The world doesn't need more people pretending to be okay. It needs more people brave enough to not be okay and still show up anyway. And your darkness is where your creativity lives. The most powerful art, music, poetry, and innovation doesn't come from sanitized perfection. It comes from wrestling with the unknown, from diving into the void and bringing back something real. Your pain, your grief, your heartbreak, those are portals. They tear down the walls of your ego and make space for something wild and holy to move through you. But only if you stop numbing it, only if you stop judging it, only if you stop trying to be a version of yourself that no longer fits. You see, darkness isn't the absence of light. Darkness is potential. It's the womb of all creation. It's where seeds are planted, where transformation begins. Think about it, every great awakening in your life started with a descent, a fall, a breakdown. And in that darkness, something inside you woke up, something that couldn't have awakened in the comfort of light. And that's the paradox. The deeper you go into your darkness, the more authentic light you're able to carry, not the performative kind, but the nourishing kind, the kind that doesn't blind, the kind that heals. But they never told you that. They only told you to ascend, rise above, to vibrate higher. And in doing so, they cut you off from the very power that was trying to ground you. Because here's the truth. You can't rise until you root. You can't expand until you go inward. And the ones who have gone deepest into themselves are the ones who carry the strongest presence. The kind of presence that doesn't need to speak to be felt. So why does the world need your darkness more than your light? Because your darkness is honest. It doesn't lie. It doesn't pretend. It doesn't perform. And in a world addicted to illusion, honesty is revolutionary. When you show up in your raw, unfiltered truth, when you say, "This is who I am," even in my mess you give others permission to do the same. You become a mirror, a lighthouse. Not because you're trying to save anyone, but because your presence reminds them of their own wholeness. And let's be clear, your darkness is not about spiraling into self-destruction or glorifying pain. It's about alchemizing it. It's about learning how to sit in the discomfort without running, how to face your own shadows without shame, how to transform your wounds into wisdom. That's spiritual maturity. And that's what the world is hungry for, not more gurus floating above the clouds, but more warriors of the soul who have walked through fire and come back with love in their eyes. So I ask you now, with all sincerity, what part of your darkness have you been hiding, not because it was dangerous, but because someone once told you it was unlovable? And what would happen if you stopped hiding it? What would happen if you brought it out into the open, not to indulge it, but to integrate it? You don't need to fix your darkness. You need to listen to it. You need to sit with it like an old friend, like a forgotten part of yourself that's been trying to get your attention. You need to stop judging your sadness, your anger, your fear, and start learning from them. Because those emotions are not here to destroy you. They're here to refine you, to strip away the masks, to bring you back to your essence. In the end, your darkness is not the enemy of your light. It's the foundation of it. Without it, your light is hollow, performative, a costume. But when your light is rooted in your darkness, when it is born from the ashes of everything you faced and felt and survived, that light is unshakable. That light transforms. So don't run from your darkness. Become intimate with it. Let it teach you. Let it show you who you really are before the world told you who to be. Because when you own your darkness, you become whole. And when you are whole, you become free. Let's not whisper anymore. Here's the final truth, the one that changes everything. Your darkness was never meant to be hidden. It was never meant to be tucked away in the corners of your soul. masked behind forced smiles or spiritual cliches. It was never meant to be something you work through just to get back to a more acceptable version of yourself. Your darkness was meant to lead you, not as a tyrant, but as a guide. Not to destroy who you are, but to reveal who you've always been beneath the programming, the people-pleasing, the pretending. You see, we've been living backwards. We've been taught that leadership, influence, and power come from perfection, from mastering the light, from always being in control. But real power, soul power, comes from integration, from the courage to walk into the places you swore you'd never go, from the willingness to lead not from your image, but from your truth. And that truth? It's messy, it's raw, it's sacred, and that's what makes it magnetic. You've been conditioned to believe that your darkness disqualifies you from leading, from healing, from being seen. But what if it's the opposite? What if everything you've been through, every wound, every breakdown, every shadow, you were meant to walk through it not to be punished, but so that you could carry something real back to the world? So that when you speak, when you create, when you sit with someone in their pain, it's not theory, it's embodied knowing. That's what makes you powerful. And that's what makes people trust you, even when they don't understand why. You don't have to be perfect to lead. You have to be present. You have to be honest. You have to be willing to be seen as you are, not as you wish you were, not as some curated version, but as the whole, complex, multidimensional being you are right now. Because here's the paradox. The more you try to hide your darkness, the more power it has over you. But the moment you own it, the moment you say, yes, this is also me, it loses its grip and becomes your strength. Think about the people who've impacted your life the most. Were they perfect? Or were they real? Were they the ones who had all the answers, or were they the ones who weren't afraid to say, I've been there too? When you lead from your darkness, you offer others something rare and holy. Permission to feel, to be human, to stop performing. And that kind of leadership, that kind of presence is what the world is starving for. Your darkness is also your compass. It tells you what matters. It shows you where your boundaries are, where your deepest truths lie. When you ignore it, you drift. You become ungrounded, disconnected, lost in everyone else's expectations. But when you listen to your darkness, it brings you back. It says, this is what you stand for. This is what you're not willing to compromise. This is what you came here to do. And what you came here to do, it isn't small. You didn't come here to just survive, to just blend in, to just manage your image. You came here to remember, to awaken, to embody the full spectrum of who you are, and in doing so, remind others that they can too. That's what it means to lead with your darkness, not to glorify pain, but to alchemize it into power. So let me ask you one final question, the kind that can't be answered with words, only with the way you choose to live next. If your darkness was not something to hide, but something to lead with, what would change? What would you dare to express? Who would you finally become? Because the truth is, you've always had the power, not despite your darkness, but because of it. Now it's time to stop hiding. It's time to lead, as all of you. Dark and light, wounded and wise, broken open and finally whole.